Hello everyone, my name is Matthew Hunter and welcome to my YouTube channel. In today's topic we're going to cover selective outrage and prioritizing global issues, because this is one thing as I watch the news cycle really bothers me, is that people's priorities are all whack. So if it seems like I'm reading from something, I am actually using my laptop to refer to my notes. I'm a better writer than a speaker, so bear with me, but let's jump right into it. So I tend to use analogies to explain a lot of things, and we're going to use the analogy of explaining the world as a sinking ship today. So we should view the world as a sinking ship that has holes all through the hull with different sizes, holes ranging from tiny holes and holes ranging from large holes with gallons of water pouring into the hull of the ship. The ship is sinking faster and faster every minute, and a rational way to problem solve is to deal with the more severe problems, or in this analogy, the biggest leaks, the ones that are creating the most water flow in the hull and creating the ship to sink to the bottom of the ocean faster. So this is just a more successful strategy when problem solving. When dealing with the most important and serious matters first is usually the best case scenario. In my opinion, if you were to take the world's problems and say, ask each individual human, if you could tell me what you think the most egregious act committed on the planet could be, in my opinion, it would be obviously the rape, torture, and murder of children. I think this is worse than even such acts committed against the elderly. Obviously, the elderly would then fall underneath the children for the same reason that not so much innocence, but they don't have the mental capability to maybe deal with what's going on. So they're vulnerable people, the elderly. Well, I would say children are even more vulnerable than elderly people. So this would include things like wars and political policies that lead to such. When I say the rape and murder of children, now that could be individuals committing those acts. It could be government policies that are enacted that lead to those acts being committed. So to me, this seems to be like the world's #1 problem. The biggest hole in the ship would be obviously the rape, murder, and torture of children, in my opinion. Now, I can argue that. I would ask any of the viewers out there watching this video and any other people the question, what do you think is the worst thing? And I think a lot of people would agree with me in that. Obviously the rape, torture, and murder of children is worse than, pollution on the world, all the other issues that we hear in the news cycle today. It's pretty damn important. Then maybe we can address things like pollution, poverty, racism, slavery, theft, corruption, and the list goes on. And what I just listed was in no particular order. It's just some examples to further my point. So when I see people getting mad at things, it's usually small compared to other things, in my opinion, which are more of importance. So a lot of the things I'm seeing today is a lot of virtue signaling rather than actually caring about people. Let's use the Black Lives Matter movement, for example. If Black Lives Matter, then Black children's lives must really matter. And how many Black children are sex trafficked around the world, sold into slavery in Africa and the Middle East currently to this day, being killed in the crossfire in gang shootings in the inner cities, aborted or being raised by fatherless homes. So the Black Lives Matter movement loses it for me when I don't see them bringing up the latter problems and only Black people being killed by police, which number for number is peanuts compared to Black kids who are killed by other Black people as a result of, like I said, sex trafficking, wars, abortions, fatherless homes, and stuff like that. So they will cry racism. Another thing, they will cry racism is a big problem in the Western worlds, but in the same eye, Black Lives Matter will turn a blind eye to racism in China, Africa, and in the Middle East, which is currently worse than in any other Western nation. I'll see people cry for women's rights and equality, but yet turn a blind eye to the Middle East's treatment of women. Jeffrey Epstein and people like him ran a global pedophile ring that reached out and connected the wealthiest, powerful, and well-connected people, set up by government agencies as a blackmail operation for world control and dominance. This is the real news story in crime. The wealthiest people and families like George Soros, Rothschilds, Rockefellers, the Clintons, the Bushes, and so on, who fund and work with these communist regimes around the world to take down Western values and seek to rule by authoritarianism rather than peace, are the true enemies of the people, since their ideologies and actions and cooperations have led to the rape, torture, and starvation of way more lives, including children, than the outrage mob points to nowadays. I'm tired of it, and I only highlight how ignorant history is. Most people, that they truly don't care about lives or the issues. It's more about virtue signaling. So let's get our priorities straight. And this is the crux of the video. If Black Lives Matter gets everyday news coverage wall to wall, or, Greta Thunberg with her climate change issues, come back to the analogy, like I said, what is the most egregious thing that another human being could do on this planet? Now, some could argue that it is throwing the trash in the ocean, and that is a horrible thing, destroying our planet. We all need to live on it. You could make the argument that racism among police and police officers killing citizens, or government's authority run amok and violating people's rights. Absolutely, I'll be on board with you on all those issues. They're obviously issues that we need to address. But like I said, I don't see people prioritizing what we feel is the most egregious acts, tackling them first. Now, this would be a smart strategy. So I think the news cycle should be focusing on not all lives matter, not Black Lives Matter, but kids' lives matter, because kids are the most vulnerable among us. Kids are the future. And I always come back to, if you raise generations peacefully and educate them properly, they will grow up and not act in a manner that leaves the world in such a decay state it is today. So, it's nipping it in the bud. If we address the children's problems at an early stage, they won't grow up to be psychopathic people who will commit harm against fellow man or women. So, understanding this is why I get so mad, and I can't get behind a lot of these movements we see today with the Black Lives Matter, the feminist movements, equal rights movements, and all that, is because I prioritize what I feel is more important than all those movements. Not to take away from them those movements, not to say those movements don't have valid points, but like I said, how can a feminist movement call out having equal rights and gender gap and all these other things they profess to say about the problems in the Western worlds, but then turn a blind eye to the Middle East and the atrocious actions and violations of women's rights that go on over there today? How can Black Lives Matter say, they care about Black lives and they care about all the lives that the police take? Well, if we count number for number, how many people are dying at the hands of the police versus how many people are dying at the hands of poor decisions, black on black crime, poverty and starvation in the Middle East and in Africa. A lot more black babies are dying over there from starvation than dying here today. So, I'll see people change their Facebook photos to, virtue signal and support for the Black Lives Matter and to bash on Western nations. But like I said, turn a blind eye to the more egregious problems that we see in the world. So that's all I want to address in this video today. I'll try to keep it short, but, don't fall for the outrage mob. That's what the media and that's what the powers that be are very good at doing. It's divide and conquer tactics. Because you know what? A lot of these wealthy, well-connected people we're now understanding through Jeffrey Epstein, and now Ghislaine Maxwell, who was just also recently arrested yesterday. This is the major news story. This is the thing that should be wall to wall every day on the news and what everyone should be talking about. Because, like I said with my own analogy, this is the bigger scourge on the earth. It's the rape, torture, and sex trafficking of children. So I would like to see Black Lives Matter, the feminist movement, and all these other movements for rights and freedoms, including the libertarian movement, including people who are socialist, communists, and capitalists. We can all agree that it's never okay to to torture children, to rape children, to murder children, but yet that happens on a daily, and I don't see it being talked about nearly enough. And we know why it's suppressed. We know why it's suppressed because a lot of these wealthy, well-connected individuals pulling the strings globally are into this stuff. So they have an invested interest in suppressing that concern, because then you might turn over a rock and discover it's Prince Andrew's in a cell with a little child doing some nasty, dirty things. So this is why there's such a focus on, well, let's just talk about feminism. Let's just talk about gender issues. Let's just talk about, and it's always to avoid the biggest problem on the planet, which is the abuse of children. And like I said, if we can address this abuse of children, I think a lot of the world's problems then will fall into place generationally, because you've raised children in such a manner that they will not tolerate such abusive behaviors in the future. This is why people are so quick to defend authoritarianism, because they were raised most likely by authoritarian parents. This is why people are so quick to be racist, because they were probably influenced and raised by racist people. We must get back to tackling and educating our youth and protecting our vulnerable youth. And that way we will probably eliminate a lot of the problems that we seem to fight about today. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. My name is Matthew Hunter. Stay tuned for more.